Join ForumIAS Academy, trusted by hundreds of toppers, including IAS Rank 1 Shruti Sharma.
Good evening, aspirants. Welcome to the Hindu News Analysis discussion brought to you by ForumIAS for the date 24th June 2023. These are the list of news articles for today's discussion. We will be covering 5 topics from international relations, governance, and a topic from economic development. Alongside this, we will also be discussing 2 previous year prelims questions at the end of the discussion. With this straight away, let us move to our first article of the day. First topic: Squaring the Circle at the India-Egypt Summit. The author begins by telling that historically, India and Egypt ties are perhaps the oldest civilizational link. And while the past century of contacts produced plenty of goodwill from decolonization to non-alignment, Egypt and India has influenced each other through its soft power diplomacy. Here he quotes Egyptians' craze on Bollywood to the addition of singing Egyptian music in Indian schools. Then the article is listed with facts here. See, India's trade with Egypt, which is the most populous Arab country, stood at $6,061 million in the year 2022 to 2023. But know that it got declined by 17% over the previous year, and nearly a third of the trade was petroleum related. Secondly, remember, India was Egypt's 6th largest trading partner, while Egypt was India's 38th. And then Indian investment in Egypt were spread over 50 projects totaling to about $3.15 billion, where the half of the sum is contributed by a single company. Also, Egypt has invested only $37 million in India. Adding to that, the facts mentions that there are less than 5,000 Indians in Egypt, which is nearly a fifth of them being students. This underperformance of bilateral ties is not due to lack of bilateral institutional mechanisms, but it is because of their efficacy and sense of purpose. As a measure to address this underperformance, India functions with a joint commission, foreign office consultations, and at least 9 joint working groups. Moreover, India's defense and external affairs ministers visited Egypt during the past years. In addition to it, it had a bilateral summit less than 5 months ago when the Egyptian president visited India. All this perhaps attests that both India and Egypt have formidable bureaucracies and public sectors to build partnership. But where do they lack and what are their opportunities? See, here the author says, forthcoming Cairo summit need to leverage the opportunities while avoiding the pitfalls. See, we should know that Egypt is a large country with a population of around 105 million and its economy is around $378 billion. Moreover, it is politically stable and its socio-economic conditions are quite similar to India. Here, Egypt's largest imports are refined petroleum, wheat, cars, corn and pharmaceutical, all of which India has the potential to supply. Moreover, the Egyptian government has an ambitious infrastructure development agenda with 49 mega projects. Adding to this, during the years 2015 to 2019, Egypt was the world's 3rd largest arm importer. So these present opportunities for India. But these opportunities comes with serious challenges. To begin with, the Egyptian economy is in a serious crisis. Their huge financial commitments have coincided with a static economy, pandemic, global slowdown and the Ukraine conflict. And consequently, tourism has dropped and the imports such as cereals are set to become costly. Adding to that, annual inflation is also above 30% and the currency has lost more than half of its value since February 2022. So, as a result of it, foreign exchange scarcity has led to delays in payment for such essentials as wheat. But the Gulf Arab states initially supported the Egyptian economy with nearly $30 billion. But they did not do it longer, citing various governance issues in Egypt. As of now, Egypt's foreign debt is over $163 billion, which is 43% of its GDP, and the Egypt's net foreign assets are minus $24.1 billion. So, enhancing economic partnership with Egypt is not going to be an easy task for India. So, it is said that India would take Egypt's lucrative opportunities through various innovations like Exim line of credit, barter, and rupee trading. But as a suggestion, the author says India shall consider trilateral funding arrangements for such projects in Egypt or else with its partners in the Gulf, G20, or multilateral financial institutions. So this is what the author has to say. So from this topic, we saw about the relationship between India and Egypt, and also the present economic situation in Egypt and the opportunities that are available for India to enhance its economic partnership with Egypt. So with this, let us close this news article here and move to the second topic. Second topic, strike a fine balance, have a just civil code. The news is regarding the Law Commission's decision to ask citizens about their views on Uniform Civil Code. But before knowing what is said in the opinion section, let us know about Law Commission of India and also about the Uniform Civil Code. First is regarding Law Commission of India. See, it is a non-statutory body and the Government of India constitutes it from time to time. The commission is established for a fixed tenure, and know that it works as an advisory body to the Ministry of Law and Justice. If we take the functions, the primary function of the Law Commission is to identify obsolete laws. That is, these are the laws which are no longer relevant and not in harmony with the existing environment. And other laws which require changes are also identified by the Law Commission. Secondly, it suggests suitable measures for quick redressal of citizens' grievances in the field of law. Then the Law Commission enables the poor to take benefits out of the legal process. Likewise, it examines the laws for promoting gender equality as well. However, know that the recommendations of the Law Commission are not binding on the government, and they are only recommendations, and the government or any concerned department may accept or they can even reject these recommendations. Now coming to the establishments of Law Commission, the first Law Commission was established during the British era. That was in the year 1834. It was established by the Charter Act of 1833 and it was chaired by Lord Macaulay. Then in the year 1955, the first Law Commission of Independent India was established for a 3-year term. Since then, 21 more commissions have been established. And in 2015, the 21st Law Commission of India was established, where its tenure was up to the month of August of 2018. And in the year 2020, the Union Cabinet approved the creation of 22nd Law Commission. Last year only, the Government of India constituted the 22nd Law Commission of India with the former Karnataka High Court Chief Justice Rituraj Avasthi as its chairperson. Now coming to Uniform Civil Code. At present, several aspects of personal lives like marriage, divorce, inheritance, adoption and maintenance are governed by personal laws. The personal laws are based on scriptures and customs of the religion, and they are separate for different religious communities. But here, the Uniform Civil Code will replace these personal laws and will bring in a uniform civil law. The uniform law will be applicable to all citizens irrespective of their religion. And know that the demand for Uniform Civil Code was first put forward by women activists in the beginning of 20th century. Their main objective was to ensure women's rights, equality and secularism. Also, the Constituent Assembly had put the Uniform Civil Code under the DPSP, having considered the Uniform Civil Code as desirable but voluntary. Now, if we take the advantages of implementing UCC, first of all, it will bring equality. See, India is a secular democracy and a common civil and personal law in India would ensure equality among all its citizens irrespective of their religion, class, caste, gender, etc. Then it will also reduce gender discrimination. Personal laws of almost all religions are discriminatory towards women. Men are usually granted upper status in personal laws. So, uniform civil code will bring both men and women at par, and they would ultimately reduce discrimination against women. By this way, it will promote gender equality and ensure welfare of women. Then the other point is regarding the societal reforms. Existing personal laws are mainly based on the patriarchal notion of the society in all religions. Here, the UCC will remove such patriarchal notions by destroying their sanctity. Then the third point is the simplification of legal matters. UCC will simplify the cumbersome legal matters governed by personal laws. It will also help in speedy disposal of cases and reduce burden on the judiciary. The final point is the national integration. A uniform civil code will eliminate the scope of politicization of issues of special privileges that are enjoyed by the communities on the basis of their religious personal laws. Now, coming to the challenges that are faced in the implementation of UCC, see, India is a diverse country, and diverse personal laws and customary practices will be a challenge for implementing the UCC. There is a huge diversity in the customary practices among communities across India. This makes uniformity very difficult to achieve. Further, a vast portion of personal laws lacks codification, and moreover, enforcing uniformity will interfere with these practices. For example, Special Marriage Act of 1954 prohibits marriage between first cousins. This is a common practice in some communities in India. Similarly, marriage between second cousins is more acceptable and prevalent among communities in southern India compared to the north. Then the second challenge is regarding the false perception. There are still false perception about the UCC among the communities. This makes a rational debate on its implementation quite difficult. Then the third factor is the violation of fundamental rights. See, there is an apprehension that the Uniform Civil Code may be in conflict with the fundamental rights of freedom of conscience, practice and propagation of religion, which is set in the Article 25. And few believe that they would even violate the freedom to manage religious affairs, which are listed under Article 26 of the Constitution. Then the next factor is the political willpower. The judiciary has asked the government multiple times to enact a UCC, but the government lacks the will to face the consequences of abolishing the personal laws of the religion and to convince the people about the benefits of UCC. In the last week's editorial, the editorial comments that Law Commission's decision to ask people's opinion on UCC appears to be a political initiative, and added that this decision of Law Commission could be aimed at bringing the potentially divisive issues under focus when elections are round the corner. Here you must know the 21st Commission released a consultation paper in the year 2018, according to which a uniform civil code was neither necessary nor desirable at that stage. Further, the report argued that rather than enforcing uniformity in laws governing religion, there should be more focus on initiatives to reform the various personal laws. And such initiatives should be resulting in the elimination of all forms of discrimination within the personal laws. In short, the previous Law Commission report emphasized non-discrimination over uniformity. In rest of the editorial part that was published last week, it talks about the negatives of introducing a UCC, which we already discussed elaborately. Now coming back to the opinion section, today's opinion section is a continuation to the editorial published last week. See, here the author begins by saying that the question of personal law is basically the question of personal and religious autonomy versus the state's authority to reform familial relations. He substantiates by saying that each community will have a particular cultural practice and they would want that to stay. But sometimes those cultural practices may not be in consonance to today's democratic principles and gender equality principle. So, state would step in to use its authority to drop those practices. This is what he says in the first para. But however, in addition to the provisions that outlaw discrimination in all its forms, he says Indian Constitution's commitment to cultural accommodation is visible through fundamental rights in the Article 29 of 1, which is exclusively dedicated to conserve the distinctive culture of all citizens. So even when state steps in for a uniform civil code, it has to balance with the fundamental rights given by the Constitution to ensure cultural protection of minorities. Then he has to say that what we need through UCC is unity and not uniformity. which means when we are going to frame a uniform civil code, such code should not impose the cultural practice of majority people on minorities. Rather, it has to integrate various acceptable cultural practices of our flourishing diversity. For instance, according to the 21st Law Commission, it boldly favored equality between men and women in communities rather than just aiming for equality between communities. In other words, he says provisions of the personal laws must be made consistent with the substantive equality and gender justice goals which are highlighted in the Constitution. So that is what the author has tried to convey in this opinion section. So with this, let us close this news article here. Third topic, Center Defense NFHS questionnaire says disability data won't change fast. News is about the exclusion of disability related questions in the 6th round of NFHS 6, which is set to begin shortly. There were raising criticisms on the health department's move to not include disability data in the 6th National Family Health Survey, but the Health Ministry replied that disability data will not change very fast and there is no reason to collect this data every 3 years. So in this context, let us know more about NFHS and NFHS 5 data so that you can quote those facts in mains exam. First is related to National Family Health Survey. See, this survey is released by Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, but the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare designated International Institute for Population Sciences as the nodal agency. This IIPS is responsible for providing coordination and technical guidance for the survey. See, 5 rounds of NFHS have been conducted so far in India. The first one was conducted in the year 1992 to 93. Every NFHS has 2 specific goals to fulfill. They are to provide essential data needed by the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare and other agencies for informed decision making and policy and program intervention purposes. Second factor is to provide insights regarding important emerging health and family welfare issues. Now let us see the key findings of NFHS 5 at all India level. First is that the demographic shift in India happened during the period when NFHS 5 survey was taken. For the first time since the NFHS began in 1992, the proportion of women exceeded men. There were 1020 women for 1000 men during the census period. In the last edition of survey in 2015 to 16, there were 991 women for every 1000 men. But during this NFHS 5 survey, they recorded 1020 women for 1000 men. However, sex ratio at birth for children born in the past 5 years only improved from 919 to 929 per 1000. This underscores that boys on average continue to have better odds of survival than girls. Note, according to the census 2011 findings, there are 940 females per 1000 males. Then second factor is the TFR, which is the total fertility rates. See, this TFR declined from 2.2 to 2 at the national level. Only 6 states such as Bihar, Meghalaya, Manipur, Jharkhand and Uttar Pradesh have TFR above 2, which means India is aging faster than anticipated. Next factor is the C-section deliveries. C-section births in India increased by 4.3 percentage points over 5 years. It registered 21.5% in NFHS 5 from 17.2% in the 4th survey. Know that nearly half of the total C-section births took place at the private health facilities in urban areas, and the cesarean births decreased only in states of Nagaland and Mizoram. Then if we take the obesity factor, India has recorded a 4% increase in obesity in both men and women in last 5 years. No state recorded a decrease in percentage of both men and women who are either overweight or obese. Some of the worst performing states include Haryana, Karnataka, Manipur and Odisha. Then if we take anemia, more than half of the children and women, including the pregnant women, are anemic in all the phase 2 states or union territories. And even at the all India levels compared to NFHS 4, many children and women fall under anemic category. Know that 57% of women of reproductive age in the country are anemic, and Assam is among the worst performing states with a high spike in anemic cases. Then if you take women health, 11% of pregnant women are still either unreached by a skilled birth attendant. The proportion of women who use menstrual hygienic products have increased by almost 20 points between 2015 and 2021. Now, if we see the significant improvements observed from the NFHS 5 survey, first is regarding the population. As said earlier, achievement of TFR is a significant feat for the country's family planning program and shows India has contained the population explosion well. But the onus of family planning still lies with women. This is visible from an increase in female sterilization and stagnated male sterilization. Further, India is still poised to be most populous country in the world, with the current projection by the UN Population Division forecasting that India's population will peak at 1.6 billion to 1.8 billion during 2040s and 2050s. Then the NFHS data also shows two key observations. First is regarding the urban-rural divide. Then second is regarding the north-south divide. In the urban-rural divide, with the TFR, urban area has around 1.6 TFR, while rural areas registered 2.1 TFR. Then if you take the north-south divide, where there is young and male-dominated society in northern region relative to the south and northeast section of India. Fourth point is the women gaining autonomy. In NFHS 4, nearly 39% of women respondents reported owning a house or land alone or jointly. But this has risen to 43.3% in NFHS 5. Further, women operating bank accounts increased from 53% to 79% in NFHS 5. Further, 54% of women have mobile phones and 77% used hygienic methods during menstruation against 57% earlier. Also, bankers and researchers attribute the jump in bank account use to the role of account opening drive carried out under the Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana. Then the NFHS 5 recorded more accessible hospitals. See, rise in institutional delivery signify that secondary healthcare systems, community and district hospitals are accessible to more people. The data also reveals that most people are choosing private health facilities over public ones. Then there is a much needed data on lifestyle disease. See, having measured blood sugar and hypertension in the population for the first time, NFHS 5 highlighted the looming threat from lifestyle diseases. Then the survey also provides opportunity for states. See, state level indices provide comparisons and allow states to launch course corrections or to be inspired by the success stories in other regions. These are few significant improvements that India has attained in the last decade. Now we have to wait for NFHS 6 to know how far we have come across the health indicators in last 4 or 5 years. So that is all about the article here. Fourth topic, FCI not to consider request by states for more food grains under open market scheme. The news is that Union government decided to restrict the supply of food grains through the open market sale schemes to 100 tons. This move was criticized by the government of Karnataka and Tamil Nadu. Adding to this, the Food Corporation of India also made it clear that centre's priority was to curb inflation. So from this context, let us know about FCI and also about the open market sales scheme. See, under the open market sales scheme, the Food Corporation of India sells surplus stocks of wheat and rice at predetermined prices through e-auction in the open market. The aim of this scheme is to enhance the supply of food grains, especially wheat, during the lean season and thereby moderate the open market prices, especially in the deficit regions. But what has the government announced about OMSS? See, the central government has reduced the quantity of food grains a bidder can purchase under the open market sales scheme. It has been decided that the quantity that a bidder can purchase in a single bid under the open market sales scheme from the FCI will range from just 10 to 100 tons. Earlier, the maximum quantity allowed was 3000 tons per bid for a buyer. The government has said that this has been done to curb inflation and to accommodate more small and marginal buyers and to ensure wider reach of the scheme. See, the purpose of the open market sales scheme is to dispose of surplus stocks of wheat and rice held by FCI. And in addition, it would also enhance regulating the prices of wheat in the open market. Further, know that FCI conducts weekly auctions for the scheme for wheat on the platform of National Commodity and Derivative Exchange Limited. This NCDEX is a commodity exchange platform in India that provides a platform for trading in various agricultural and other commodities. Now, coming to FCI, the Food Corporation of India is a public sector undertaking that falls under the purview of Department of Food and Public Distribution, which operates under the Ministry of Consumer Affairs, Food and Public Distribution. Know that it was established under the Food Corporations Act of 1964, and the main objective of this undertaking are to conduct effective price support operations. Secondly, to distribute food grains throughout the country for the public distribution system. Then thirdly, it helps maintain satisfactory levels of operational and buffer stocks of food grains to ensure national food security. Now, if we take the relevance of FCI, see, the FCI is the bedrock of entire National Food Security Act, ensuring procurement and distribution to far-flung areas for national food security. During the COVID and migrant crisis, the FCI tackled the challenge of hunger and starvation. And also, as a bedrock of PDS, it fights malnutrition and poverty for inclusive growth. Also, the FCI purchases crops at MSP, providing financial security to farmers and making agriculture more remunerative. Know that due to supply chain disruptions, lack of encouragement to private players, and high logistic costs, the FCI is performing all the essential services to the public. Then know that 60% of the cost of acquisition, procurement, and distribution is transferred to farmers, making the system efficient. But there is also challenges which need to be addressed by the FCI. First is that FCI faces issues in all three areas, ranging from procurement, storage, and distribution. Then know that less than only 10% of farmers sells their goods to government agencies due to lack of awareness or lack of access to MSP system, and only big farmers in northwest states benefit. Secondly, the FCI has stored double the grains than the prescribed buffer limits, resulting in a shortage in open market and inflation, as well as rotten grains due to FCI's limited storage capacity. Then, according to NSSO 2011 data, know that 40 to 60% of PDS grains are siphoned off, and even a former chairperson of FCI called FCI as Food Corruption of India. So these are the criticisms that are mounted against FCI, which has to be addressed. And you can also quote Shantakumar Committee, which provides certain reformative suggestions for FCI. So that is all about this topic. Now let us move to the next article. Fifth and the final topic, Micron to produce first semiconductor chip at India plant by December 2024. The news is that US headquartered Micron is set to build $2.7 billion semiconductor assembly and testing plant in India. Terming semiconductor a foundational technology, Minister of Electronics and Information Technology said that the investment signaled a milestone for Indian semiconductor ecosystem. And moreover, you have to know that our government revised incentives offered to manufacturers under the Production Linked Incentive Scheme. So in this context, let us know about the PLI scheme. See, the PLI scheme was launched as a part of National Policy on Electronics 2019 to give incentives of about 4.6% to electronic companies, especially for the companies manufacturing electronic components like mobile phones, diodes, transistors, etc. The major aim of the scheme was to invite foreign investors to set up their manufacturing units in India. Similarly, the PLI scheme aims to promote the local manufacturers to expand their manufacturing. Then if we take the features under the scheme, companies will get incentives on incremental sales from products that are manufactured in domestic units. And know that the scheme is implemented by the concerned ministries or department. See, initially the scheme focused only on 3 sectors. But in the year 2020, the cabinet gave its approval to introduce PLI scheme for another 10 key sectors. Now, if we come to the needs for PLI scheme, the government expanded the PLI scheme for fulfilling various needs in the manufacturing sectors, such as the PLI scheme provides enough support to sunrise industries at their initial stage. See, sunrise industries are nothing but industries that are relatively new but growing fast at present. Further, these are expected to become important in the future. For example, solar energy industries, food processing industries, etc. fall under the sunrise industry category. Further, India, despite dominating the services sector, the Indian economy contributes very little to the global supply chain. Then PLI scheme can help India to build an export base. That is one of the need which is mentioned here. For example, according to the parliamentary report, the minimum production in India due to PLI scheme is expected to be over $500 billion in 5 years. And at present, there is growing demand for diversification of supply chains, especially to avoid the dominance of China. Here, the PLI scheme by increasing production can reduce Chinese demands. Then, fourth point is related to attracting the global investments to India. See, this is very much essential after the COVID-19 pandemic. India is a consumer-based economy, no? By providing incentives, the PLI scheme attracts more foreign investments to India. Then, if we take the challenges associated with PLI scheme, firstly, the scheme contains a financial cap on incentives. This makes an overperforming company not to reap the benefits of its overachievements. Secondly, in India, for the majority of PLI scheme focused sectors, the effective cost of manufacturing is higher than the competitors. For example, Ernst and Young study shows that if the cost of production of one mobile is rupees 100, then the effective cost of manufacturing the mobile is rupees 79 in China, 89 in Vietnam, and it is rupees 92 in India, including PLI scheme. So the investors will prefer other countries despite the PLI scheme. And apart from that, the scheme did not address the core issues and challenges faced by sunrise industry manufacturers, such as less presence of domestic firms. See, the scheme will benefit the international players more than the domestic firms, as the international players can invest their revenues and produce in India and take domestic market share, leaving domestic manufacturers without any scope. Thus, the domestic manufacturers will be in disadvantageous position. For example, about 99% of Xiaomi phones sold in India were made in India. So, Indian firms might face challenges in getting market share because of that. Secondly, the problem of cheap imported material. Domestic firms may also face competition from cheap imports, especially from Chinese in solar PV modules, white goods, etc. Third factor is that lack of cutting edge technology and foundries. See, India so far not focused on adequate research and development and raw machinery. This resulted in poor talent retention and eventually brain drain. So, the development of industries under the PLI scheme is questionable. Then the last and the final factor is the challenge of WTO. See, in the year 2019, a Chinese firm contested the rise in tariffs under the phased manufacturing program. If the PMP is found to be the WTO non-compliant, then the growth of domestic industries is said to be limiting. So these are the challenges which are put forward against the production linked incentive schemes. So from this article, we saw what is production linked incentive scheme, the need of it, and the challenges surrounding it. So with this, let us close our news articles discussion here. Moving to the previous year prelims question discussion. See, the two questions that I am going to discuss now has been asked in the year 2022. Let us move to the first question. With reference to United Nations Convention on Law of Sea, consider the following statement. The first statement says, a coastal state has the right to establish the breadth of its territorial sea up to a limit not exceeding 12 nautical miles, measured from the baseline determined in accordance with the convention. The second statement says, ships of all states, whether coastal or landlocked, enjoy the right of innocent passage through the territorial sea. The third statement says, the exclusive economic zone shall not extend beyond 200 nautical miles from the baseline from which the breadth of the territorial sea is measured. Which of the statements given above are correct? The options given are option A 1 and 2 only, option B 2 and 3 only, option C 1 and 3 only, option D 1, 2 and 3. See, this is a direct fact based question. You have to know about the United Nations Convention. Only then you will be able to answer this question. All the three statements are right. So the answer for this question is option D 1, 2 and 3. Moving to the second question, which one of the following statements best reflect the issue with Senkaku Islands sometimes mentioned in the news? The options given are: option A, it is generally believed that they are artificial islands made by a country around the South China Sea. Option B, China and Japan engage in maritime dispute over these islands in East China Sea. Option C, a permanent American military base has been set up there to help Taiwan to increase its defense capabilities. Option D, through International Court of Justice, declared them as no man's land. Some Southeast Asian countries claim them. This is also a fact-based question. Know that the Senkaku Island are a group of uninhabited islands in the East China Sea. If you know this alone, you can come to a conclusion. And the islands are the focus of territorial disputes between the country Japan and China. Here know that China claims that it only discovered the island, and so the ownership of that island belongs to China. But Japan has said it has maintained the ownership of island from the year 1895, where only after the Second World War Japan surrendered it. So this is the dispute that is going on between China and Japan. The answer for this question is option B, which says China and Japan engage in maritime disputes over these islands in East China Sea. So with this, we have come to the end of the news articles as well as question discussion. With this, let us wind up the session. If you like the method of teaching and if you are clear with the concepts, please like, comment and subscribe to ForumIAS in various social media platforms for further updates.